today's creative adventure is the sugar skull artwork for Halloween craft. We're going to do some lovely sugar skulls, our Day of the Dead look, and we're going to be using the Dollar Tree skulls that they had that were plastic. The first thing I want to do with our Dollar Tree skull is I'm going to give it a good coat of the white Dixie Belle. I think it's called cotton, and that way it'll have a good basis because you want the sugar skull to be as white as possible. I'm Deanna Carroll, and welcome to Ivycreates. So we're going to be painting over the sugar skull. Please subscribe, hit that notification bell, give us a good like, and maybe leave us a comment and let us know what you think about our videos, my videos. So subscribe, like, and share. So you can see that I'm trying to get my base coat down for my sugar skull, and it's important that it be a bright white. I can tell you that the sugar skulls are something that's usually done with the Latin American culture, and I don't really know enough about the sugar skull, part of the culture, although my best friend who goes to Mexico all the time, I've been 3 or 4 times, but she goes all the time and she loves them. She thinks they're fabulous, and she's visited the graveyards down there in Mexico that have all the bright colorful things all over the cemetery, and all of the Day of the Dead look stuff. So anyways, I'm going to be using these for Halloween decorations, and I just thought they would be perfect. They're fun, they're interesting, and a lot of entertainingness to painting them. So I hope you enjoy this little quick tutorial on painting a sugar skull. And there's really, there's no skill involved, I promise. It's mainly making sure that you've got that white base coat down. And then from there, and I use my Dixie Belle paint to make the base coat. As usual, I use a lot of Americana paints and a few folk art paints as well. Now, the paint that I am using in the dark parts of the skull is actually not black. It's a dark plum purple. And the reasoning is I really didn't want to use any black on the skull because this is more of a fun thing for me. And so I wanted to use this dark purple to give it just a little bit of color in the sunlight, and you'll see that later on in some of the final pictures. So thank you again for watching. I really appreciate it. I'm Deanna Carroll. I have lots of great videos on my Ivycreates channel. Please be sure to visit some of my other videos and awesome decorating ideas for Halloween, because it is one of my favorite holidays. And of course, that has to do with growing up and having a birthday in October. That always tends to make people who are born in October have Halloween as their favorite holiday. So I'm just painting in the dark crevices now to make sure that it's all painted and the whole skull is covered, because I will be probably placing this outside eventually. The other thing is I'm going to go back over the areas that were indentations with the dark purple, just to bring out the details of the skull. And if you've ever seen a sugar skull, you'll notice that it shows all the teeth really well. It shows the little cracks and crevices, and they're just really super cute. I actually have a sugar skull purse that my friend who goes to Mexico brought me back. And it's really pretty, and it has lots of jewels on it and stuff, and it's black with the sugar skull on it, and I love it. So when you're decorating your sugar skull, after you get done painting it and getting everything pretty, you can add more embellishments to it. You can do all kinds of things to it. You can add beads and sequins and jewels and gems and glue it all over it with glitter. Whatever you want to do, make it as obnoxious as possible, because that's kind of the point. With this, when you do paint the dark into the eyes, be cognizant of what shape you make the eyes. You can make them look angrier or with a straight across the top of the eye bone, the brow bone place. or you can make them rounder across the top and make them look more sympathetic. Anyways, you can change the personality by the way that you shape the eyes. So do be careful when you're doing that, how you shape the eyes, because you don't want it to look too frightening, even though you do want it to be somewhat frightening. So now I'm just following the basic lines that I feel are on the skull and making designs. Please leave a comment below. Let me know what you think about this project and what you might think about some of our other projects. I'd love to get your opinion on what you think about this. It is just for fun. We're not sacrificing anybody, but it is for fun. And so please, enjoy this little project. So the thing about designing these guys, I did actually go to the Dollar Tree and I had one of their MDF board sugar skulls in front of me while I was doing this, so I could have a picture to look at, which honestly you can look it up online as well. You don't have to have a picture or anything in front of you. You can look it up online and have it on your computer or your phone or what have you, just to give you some different ideas on what they might look like, and the different patterns, because it's all about that. When you're doing the things in designs, it's about making a pattern most of the time, especially when it comes to things like the sugar skulls. You want to make a pattern, you want to make it different, but similar in many different ways on either side. The symmetry is got to be there when you're first making the sugar skull. And then from there, you can make it all kinds of different. So now I'm just going to go around the edges of the nose just to highlight the edges of the nose bones. And then I'm going to start with the top, doing some more designs up there, a big diamond. Now on this, I used a bright orange color. The little paint pots that I have, I mix my own colors for the most part, and I'll go get a bunch of Americana paints or some of the folk arts, different things like that, and I use all kinds of paints. I mean, just all kinds, mostly acrylics, but all kinds of paints. And I will mix them all together and make up my own colors and my own color schemes. And I use these little paint pots that you can typically buy in most of our hobby stores and stuff like that. And that is how I mix my paints and mix my colors, because I like to use a lot of different colors, usually not the colors that they sell in the bottle, or maybe I want to save money on not buying 500 different colors, so I can mix them in my paint pots, have them ready, and I don't have to use a painter's palette or anything and waste any paint, because I am very, very frugal when it comes to paint. It is one thing I'm very frugal about. And I hoard paint. I mean, I honestly do. But, definitely if you have any questions about mixing paint, if you would like to see a video on how I mix colors and make colors, I would be more than happy to provide that for you. Just leave me a comment below and let me know if you think, hey, I really want to learn how to mix colors. Because there are some special things that you can do when you mix your own colors. For instance, a lot of my colors, I'll add a touch of my royal gold, my folk art metallic royal gold, and it gives it a little sheen, and that's mainly in like my blacks and oranges and yellows and stuff. In red, I'll add a little bit of that gold, and it just adds a little bit of magic. And just like I always say about my glitter magic that I have, my superfine glitter, that's my magic. So I like to add a little bit of magic to my colors. And then in addition to that, you'll see later on that I end up putting some lighter spots in the sugar skull's eye sockets. And that I put some glow-in-the-dark paint just to make it stand out more. And let me tell you, it's kind of funny because I went outside to take pictures, and I was taking pictures of these guys, and you can see the white that I put down deep in the sockets. And I put the glow-in-the-dark paint over it, and as soon as I brought them in, those were glowing, and it was really cool looking. So I'm just making designs on the face, you know, random kind of designs. They're not exactly like the picture that I'm using, but that's okay. I wanted to do different things. So sugar skulls tend to be real flowery and lots of bright colors, mainly like oranges and hot pink and bright yellows and you know, some bright blues and stuff. So that's what I'm trying to do, is make a lot of really pretty bright colors and really cool designs. You can see that I'm doing my curlicues and I'm doing my flowers. When you're doing a flower, always try to make at least 5 petals. Do not do an even amount of petals, because then the flower will look really strange. Do an odd amount of petals and your flower will look right. So most of the time I do 5 petals. Sometimes I do 7, whatever. You know, I just try to do an odd number of petals. That way the flower looks right. My little swirlies, I'll do the swirlies, and you do those without lifting up your pen, and you do have to practice them. So I usually start, you know, I'll start and get them down without lifting my brush, and then I'll go back over and maybe highlight them some or do different things like that. And you can see that it covers a good bit of ground there for decoration. But you can go back and add anything you want to add. Just remember, you know, you do have to show a lot of the white on the sugar skulls. They do like that with the bright colors. Please subscribe, share, like, hit that little notification bell. Stay tuned for our final project pictures when we're done at the end. And you can see I'm just kind of using my little liner brush and putting down designs and getting a basis for my design. Now I'm going around the eye sockets with the bright pink. And I swear, whatever model they used the skulls for the Dollar Tree, I think it was a smoker model, because if you'll look at the bones on the right above the teeth, they all have lines like it's been a smoker for 50 years. It cracked me up. I have a fleur-de-lis on the chin, which, you know, being around here right close to New Orleans and everything, a fleur-de-lis, we're a French area, so we put fleur-de-lis on everything. Alright, at that point I did have to stop because I straight up ran out of paint colors, and I had to go back, and you know, occasionally my pots get all empty and I had to go mix up all my paints and put them in my pots so that I would have colors to work with. Now, in addition to the white in the center of the eye sockets, I did a white circle. I put a little dab of yellow right in the center of that as well. Now I'm just going back with my bright yellow, and I'm kind of highlighting areas of the skull. Please subscribe, share, and like. Don't forget. I really do appreciate your watching. Thank you very much for watching and being a part of my crafting journey. I'm a second generation floral designer and crafter and artist since I was a little kid. Since I was 10, I started working in a flower shop doing flowers and stuff. So, and I've done many different other art related careers throughout my life. And I finally took it to YouTube, and you know, for years I've been thinking about it, and I know I waited really late, but I'm gonna show you everything that I can show you, and hopefully I can help you realize that you have more gifts than you think you do, because I honestly believe that everybody has a gift. They just have to work to find out what it is. So I'm filling in the flower petals, just giving it more color. and adding a few extra of the yellow designs, my little curly cues. If you get used to making the little curls like that, and it does take a little while, it really does. Keep in mind that this is what you're seeing on the screen is 4 times faster than how fast I actually do it, because I do speed it up during the process so it's not boring. So it's usually 4 times faster, or 2 to 4 times faster, but this one is 4 times faster than the speed I'm actually going. So I am taking it slow and steady when I'm painting so that I don't have, mess ups, because you can mess up your little curly cues and all your different patterns and everything. So you can really see it starting to take shape as far as the design goes. And I'm going to go ahead and give it a good little drying so I can go to my next section. I generally work wet on wet, which means that I rarely let things sit and dry for long before I go to my next item. It's just depending on if I'm changing to a totally different color. And as you see, I went from yellow there to a bright blue, and I didn't want them mixing because yellow and blue make green. So I wanted to have my blue be as bright as my yellow was. So I went ahead and gave it a little bit of a dry. So with my heat gun, and you could use a hair dryer, you don't have to use a heat gun. So I gave it a little bit of a dry, and now I'm putting more details in with this bright turquoise blue. It does not show up on the camera how bright this color is. On the camera it looks like a beautiful turquoise, but I'm telling you, it is the most obnoxious bright turquoise blue you've ever seen, which was also the color of my first house. I can remember when I went and looked, it was a wood-sided house before Katrina. Katrina took her with it. And it was such a bright turquoise, fluorescent, neon color. When you turn the corner, you could see it. And I'm like, I have to get rid of this color before 6 months in. And I did. I repainted the house like a beautiful olive green kind of color with some burgundy shutters. And I had black and white colors as well. And I had to get it painted because I did not want to get used to the color, because if you've been around something like a particular smell or a particular color, after a little while your brain gets used to it, and then you don't think anything of it. And I'm like, I cannot live in a fluorescent blue house. I just can't. So even though I am a beach person, we live on the beach right here on the Mississippi Gulf Coast, still, we are not like that around here. So I painted a beautiful olive green, and it was actually very lovely. But this is what this color reminds me of when I see it. And you can't even imagine how bright it is because it doesn't show up well on camera. So now I'm just going around some of the different areas, layering my colors so that it looks, has more depth, all of that good stuff, and making it look really interesting. I hope you're enjoying this video. It is brought to you by Ivycreates, which is the name of my YouTube channel, and my website, www.ivycreates.com, which I don't even think anybody says the W's anymore. They just go, what's your URL? So it's a transition. But please visit ivycreates.com. And you can also visit me on my Facebook page at DeannaAC or Ivy Creates, either one on my Facebook page. And you can find me through there. You can see I'm almost done. I've got a different color, more of a medium blue now. Kind of looking and seeing the different colors and seeing which one I want to use. So this one is a medium blue. It's not a turquoise at all. It's a very nice, calming, pretty blue. And I didn't even realize it until you saw the sugar skull. It just bounced on the screen. Mine looks very similar to that, and that's an effect here in Filmora, what I'm using to edit the video. And my sugar skull looks very similar. That's interesting. Send me a message. Let me know what you thought about this video and if there's anything that you might think I could do differently. I'm going to be doing another skull in just a second, and that one's going to be a little different than this one as far as I end up making it into a planter, and I'll show you how. And there's a reason why I'm doing this, because I wanted to give you an idea on something else you could do with these little skulls. Looks pretty terrifying. Alright, so we're going to be beginning on our next skull in just a second. Now, I used a Jenga block and glued it to the bottom of this skull. And the reason why I did that is it helps to sit them up straight. Now, in these skulls that came from the Dollar Tree, the forehead part was a very thin plastic, and I have no idea why, but it's thinner than the rest of the plastic on the skull. So I took my awl and I poked it through the forehead, and it looked really violent, but I poked it through the forehead, and then I used the scissors to cut out the head part, okay, in kind of a Silence of the Lambs sort of way. And then I took my awl and poked it through the chin. And the reason why I'm poking it through the chin down there is to let water drain out of it if I decide to use it for a planter. And the reason why I considered using this for a planter, and you can see across the forehead it's still really weak, and so I go back in and I add glue and layers to it. I let it dry in between until it got a little bit thicker, and you know, it was more steady. So I do mannequins in my yard a lot of times, and I will do these mannequins and cut their heads out just like I did the skull, and fill them full of dirt and put plants in them. And I have one I've named Clarice, and she lives in my garden, and I put fake eyelashes on her with E6000, and I used acrylic paint to paint on all of her makeup, and she's been there for about 2 years, and I probably really need to do her makeup over again and her paint, but she still looks fabulous. And she has Dusty Miller growing out of her head, and it looks like a really cool hairdo. So I do a lot of whimsical things in my garden because I am really much of a gardener. I do love to garden. Growing up in a flower shop, you know, love my flowers. And so I dried this, and you can see I started putting the purple in the eye sockets and in the crevices and cracks where I wanted to. And now I'm just going to go back and decorate this sugar skull however I want it. And this one was intended to be a planter. That is why it has a hole in the bottom. So if water should get in it, it can drain out. Because I love finding things in thrift stores and such, and turning them into planters. Like outside I have a troll that I took her hair off of her and her little headpiece and made her into a planter. Well, I've got to go back and drill some holes in her head because, and that sounds horrible, but I've got to drill some holes because her plant did not do well because I think it held too much water. So, and there wasn't enough drainage and it died. So I'm going to have to drill a hole in the back of her head and then replant her, and I'll show you when I do that. But so you can now see I'm just putting on this one I chose to do flowers around the eyes and swirlies on the side of their head, and just dots and different things. You know, this is your design. You do whatever you want to on your design. When you're doing the little swirls and circles and stuff, try to start from the inside and work your way to the outside of the swirl. That way you can make sure that it's fairly even, because if you start from the outside and move in, it just, you don't always get even on that. This is a deep plum purple, just like the color I use for the eyes. It's got a little bit more blue than that, the color I use for the eyes, but that's what it is. And I'm just making dots, I'm making little trails, I'm doing different things. You could do butterflies or dragonflies or anything you wanted. And if you can find one of those old mannequin heads, or you can even use, I saw one lady on her YouTube channel, she used those styrofoam heads you get from Hobby Lobby, and she painted it with a base coat of Mod Podge, and then she painted over it and made a sugar skull, and she actually put a wig on hers. I prefer personally to use plants in my heads. I just like it that way. I don't know why, it's just a thing. But she put a wig and she put flowers on hers, and it came out super, super cool. So we're getting up on, let's see, today is the 27th of September. I shouldn't tell you the dates because, you know, this will be here for a while. But starting next week is the 1st of October, and I have seen people out decorating their yards already for Halloween. And honestly, I've been doing Halloween for like the last month, so I'm a little ahead of everybody. So I've got to finish up all my Halloween stuff with a quickness, and because we have a really cool car show that comes the first 2 weeks of October here on the Mississippi Gulf Coast. It's called Cruising the Coast, and it's all antique vehicles, and you know, everything's been modified, and it's beautiful, beautiful artwork. Beautiful artwork. So you will see it's the largest in the United States for antique vehicles. They have over 9,000 registered vehicles. So come down and see us on the Mississippi Gulf Coast. We got a lot of cool stuff going on. It is like a rolling art show, and it's also fun because everybody does burnouts and everybody does a little bit of acting up, and it's just fun. Not too crazy, but it is fun. So anyways, we got to get everything finished for Halloween before the 1st of October, because the first 2 weeks of October are entirely taken up in car stuff. And the other thing about, you know, the first 2 weeks of October with all the cars and everything and getting everything ready for a quick Halloween is I like to make things, for the most part, that I can change quickly into just fall decorations that are for Thanksgiving. And so I'll be working on that in the next couple of weeks as well. I'll do pumpkins a lot of times that don't have scary, you know, jack-o'-lantern faces or anything. I'll just do the pumpkin for Halloween, and then that way when Halloween is over, I can take down the Halloween part and just leave the pumpkins. And I also do a lot of stuff that changes from fall into winter or into the Christmas holidays. You can see that I've just made all different kinds of designs on my little face, and in a few minutes I'll be posting the pictures of what I did with it, which wasn't what I planned to do. So I'll see if I can maybe find a picture of Clarice to put at the end of this video. Y'all might really enjoy that. She's quite the character in my yard. She's joined by my gargoyle Max, and he is huge, and he was also a Halloween decoration that I got right after Halloween from Home Depot, and he stands about 3 foot tall, and I put him on top of something, so he stands pretty tall in my garden, and he's really cool looking too. So I'm just finishing up the little flowers and adding little details to all of the things on my sugar skull. And like I said earlier, you can add glitter, you can add gemstones, you can glue stuff all over it. Add flowers, big silk flowers, they're known for that. Put wigs on them, whatever you want to do with your sugar skulls. They're just fun decorations for Halloween, unless you're Spanish. And then I'm not sure what they do with them, but I know they do stuff with them. I know they have a big parade, I do know that, for the Day of the Dead. So now I'm putting the white in the center of the eye sockets like I did on the other one. And that instantly makes them look really creepy. I don't know why, but it does. They were not as creepy with, you know, purple eye sockets that you couldn't even see into. But once you put in the white, it's kind of like, ooh, okay. So I'm going back over some of the flowers just around there with the white. Just giving it some highlights. And I go back in the center of the eye sockets and I put the glow-in-the-dark paint right in the center of the eye sockets. So I hope you enjoyed this project. I ended up putting a mop head in the top of my planter Day of the Dead head and sugar skull. So I put a mop head in there from the Dollar Tree and made it look like it had dreadlocks just for fun. And you can put your plant in there however you want to do it. And there's some other projects that I had also made, like my voodoo dolls. You can find a video on that. But this is how my sugar skulls came out with their little glow-in-the-dark eyes. Hi, did you click that subscribe button and the notification bell? Well, if you don't hit that notification bell, you will miss out on our Thursday videos. So please go ahead, click it, and you'll be able to watch our videos that are coming up.